Welcome.
Welcome to hell.
Welcome to the show where an idiot with a cringy, distracting mask talks a bunch of shit. On the chopping block today is 15 Minutes of Shame, the new documentary released October 7th, 2021 on HBO Max. It was created by Monica Lewinsky, who everybody knows, and that guy from Catfish. His name's Max. The TLDR is that I fucking hate it. It's a sob story.
They all got a sob story.
For the majority of the runtime, and the point they make in the end is so dumb.
Why are you guys dumb? You guys are so dumb.
I just had to make a video about it. So here we are. I would hesitate to call this an actual full-fledged documentary because they are not diving that deep into the subject, in my opinion. And the ending is more of a call to action propaganda piece than it is a documentary.
This is propaganda at its most evolved.
It's a few stories, some light information on the psychology, or whatever the right word for it is.
What's that supposed to be? Some psychology?
And a bunch of expensive animations, which do in fact look cool, but are all basically used to lay the blame of public shaming at the feet of social media. They try to make it seem like social media is creating the tweets that get people all riled up, or somehow making them more inflammatory or something.
Yeah, but I mean, you said some pretty inflammatory things, obviously.
And Monica, I despise you.
I despise you.
For making me defend the social media companies at all. And I will keep saying that throughout this video, goddammit. The social media companies are indeed evil.
They're evil, Edwin.
Ultra-powerful companies that deserve nothing but hatred, but they simply are not guilty of what Monica is blaming them for. And if Monica gets her way, it will mean the end of social media forever, unironically. That's what we're here to talk about today, among other things.
Could you give us some of your political beliefs?
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit. Filter my politics. Filth is my life.
So this is how liberty dies.
It's either all okay or none of it's okay.
You're a fake and a fraud!
This is propaganda of Orwellian proportion.
So I don't have a problem with a lot of the runtime, especially the beginning and middle-ish parts of the documentary. My problems are mostly with the ending and the direction Monica here is trying to send the audience, and with the constant finger-pointing at social media for the wrong reasons. The conclusions this documentary arrives to are completely out of left field. Not just unexpected, but malicious.
It's a statement of malicious intent.
Because I can't see how they could have come to the conclusion they did without having an ulterior motive on free speech. But, what do you expect from someone with ties to the White House making a documentary for one of the biggest capitalist entertainment companies in the world? You can bet they don't want people talking about workers' rights or anything else that would actually help the victims of public shaming. So my grievances are as follows. They are trying to combine two gigantic, complicated problems into one problem by giving it a catchy name. In essence, they are trying to conflate revenge porn and public shaming. They are also steering the audience away from actual solutions in favor of bullshit agendas. They cower away from actually criticizing the companies that fire the victims of public shaming. They are trying to point all the fingers at social media in hopes that they will be able to sue them. But what we sue them for matters so goddamn much, and her way would lead to the destruction of all social media platforms. She's forcing me to defend my most hated enemy. God damn it, fuck you, Monica. Their proposed solutions to public shaming would do absolutely nothing for the victims themselves, which shows that that was never a priority for the creators of this documentary. I'm going to tell you exactly why these people are wrong and actively misleading their audience for some unknown reason that I can't speculate on for legal reasons. This is not a conspiracy video. It's a critique that sounds like a conspiracy video, but it is not that word that I just said 2 times. I'm not trying to bury my own video, but before we get to the problems in earnest, let's do a quick overview of the characters in the documentary and some of the stuff that happens in the beginning, in case some of you are seeing this without actually having seen the documentary. I won't be spoiling anything that everyone doesn't already know. These stories are, pretty popular, and if you don't want me to spoil anything, go watch it and then get your ass back here right away.
You get back here, young man!
Part 3. Overview of the documentary before it gets bad. For most of the runtime, they interview about 4 victims of public shaming. Everyone knows the Monica Lewinsky story, so I won't insult your intelligence by rehashing that. The hand sanitizer guy is one of them, one of the stories. He did get beat pretty hard by the internet, and he didn't deserve it. But dude, all of the crying just made me resent the sight of this guy. I don't know what it is, but like maybe it says more about me than it does him, but still, like it really undercut my sympathy for him in a big way. He lost his income when Amazon banned him from selling shit after the whole debacle with the New York Times. Then there was this guy who lost a great paying job because some asshole made him out to be a white supremacist, even though he's Hispanic, which is ironic. Isn't it a cancelable crime to frame a minority as a white supremacist? I thought that was part of the rules. Then there was the Facebook mom, who, just like the others, she lost her job as well. But her story is pretty much as you'd expect. She made a shit post and it spiraled out of control. And then there was the college student who was targeted by a white supremacist site online after a hate crime occurred on campus. There was a bunch of racist messages directed towards her, and she ended up filing a lawsuit against a bunch of people and won one of the cases. And the rest of the runtime of the documentary is sprinkled with a bunch of other people who are supposed to be experts in social media and whatever a bunch of other related fields, I guess. As well as a bunch of expensive visual effects. But at no point throughout the entire documentary, up until the end, did they mention anything about revenge porn. They talk about the history of public shaming and outline how public shaming works. They basically describe the problem that is public shaming for the majority of the documentary, and all that's fine. They did a good job with most of that, production-wise anyway. I'm sure I could nitpick a bunch of things if I really wanted to, like how this woman is absolutely insufferable to listen to, but that isn't what we're here for today. We've got some dumb ideas to argue against, and I, the Great Skag, am here to enlighten you through my terribly written, terribly delivered, vomit-inducing performance. Also, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and give me some money on Patreon, because it will make my content better, and therefore it will make you better, dear viewer. It's a win-win, really, you know. Just do it. And so I can call myself a YouTuber without feeling imposter syndrome. That would be great, thank you. But let's get on with the show. Finally. Conflating public shame with revenge. As soon as Carrie Goldberg shows up, shit goes into a direction I did not expect at all. They add new meaning to...
Holy shit, where did that come from?
Carrie Goldberg is a lawyer who is famous for having been harassed mercilessly by her ex-boyfriend and becoming a lawyer who defends victims of revenge. But I don't see many similarities between what happened to Carrie Goldberg and what happened with everyone else in this documentary. At no point does she or anyone else explain why revenge porn and public shaming should be lumped together as if they're the same fucking thing. They just start referring to them together at once as online harms. Monica has taken 2 massive, important, impactful, and sometimes devastating problems, and smashed them together like the Love Island of victimhood. 2 of the most talked about problems on the internet today have been combined into one. Monica ordained that from this day forth, we shall see revenge porn and public shame as one and the same. And that's that.
Well, if that is that, then that indeed is that.
Or rather, she is pretending that they are the same thing to make her argument seem stronger. But you can't just conflate the arguments for revenge porn with public shaming and have an amalgamation of the two where they are one and the same, that you then call online harms. It's not how it works. As much as Monica wishes it were so, it simply does not make sense. And what's worse, it actually makes it harder to address the actual problems caused by public shaming. What is that you say, dear viewer? Do I hear you asking why she can't just make up a new term covering different problems? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you anyway. The only thing public shaming and revenge have in common is that they tend to happen on the internet, and tech companies tend to be involved. That's it. Oh, and aside from the victims suffering sometimes harsh consequences.
I'm but a poor victim in these harsh times when examples are made of the unfortunate.
So 3 similarities and pretty weak connections if you ask me.
I didn't ask you and I don't care.
We are not talking about the same tech companies either. The companies that are targeted for revenge porn tend to be, well, sites. People can be shamed publicly on a porn site, that's true. But that is a very different thing than having intimate videos of you or yourself shown to millions. With public shaming, people are being attacked for their ideas or actions that are deemed worthy of criticism. And in most cases, they are. I mean, that's, they say that a lot in this documentary. With revenge porn, it's a breach of your privacy. It's a personal betrayal being used against you. should always be consensual, obviously. So there is a legal basis for suing a company that refuses to take down an RP video. That makes sense. With public shaming, there is no content that needs to be taken down. If the social media companies take the offending post down, the people who saw it are still mad.
Still mad at you.
And they're still going to go out of their way to spread it around anyway. With revenge, typically, a handful of horny people will get their rocks off to it and move on. Or perhaps, worst case scenario, they record it for later. But unless someone has it out for the victims of revenge, besides the person that initially posted the video, it's not going to get spread around the same way an offensive tweet would. With RP, there's action required on the host company's part. And if they don't take that action, there's your legal liability right there. But again, that's not the case for public shaming. It's a different circumstance.
Yes, but it's different.
Regardless of whether or not Twitter deletes the post, the angry people who are doing the shaming are still going to contact employers, dox, or harass whoever they're angry at, regardless of what Twitter does. The only guilt Twitter would have in this case, in the case of public shaming, is showing the offensive content to people who take it way too far. As well as everyone else. It's not like they know who's going to take it too far and who won't. It's not like it's an active choice. They're just showing it to everybody. But that is the entire point of Twitter, of social media.
That's the point.
When I go on a social media site, I am either looking for things I enjoy watching or reading for humor or learning or whatever, or I am searching for something that I disagree with, something that gets me thinking. I want Twitter or YouTube or whoever else to show me stuff that I vehemently disagree with or find offensive. Seriously, that's how people learn. They hear arguments and hot takes from other people to test their own ideas against them in debate. There is, of course, always going to be people who get swept up into the storm. It's a byproduct of a public forum. Sometimes people get ganged up on, and sometimes people take it too far, but that is no reason to neuter the site by stripping it of its legal immunity. The entire point of social media is debate. One idea versus another. Sometimes people encounter ideas that they really hate, and sometimes they go way overboard in trying to punish the people who had those ideas. But, as this documentary says, and as I am about to say, not all public shaming is bad, and no one wants to stop it completely. So if we don't want to stop public shaming entirely, and we don't want people suffering because of it, what are we supposed to do?
What are we supposed to do, man?
What did the documentary think we should do? It's funny you ask. I ask, whatever. Monica would have you support her idea for Section 230, the law that provides legal immunity to social media sites, the law that makes the internet possible. But does that make sense?
That doesn't make any sense.
We all just agreed that not all public shaming is bad, and that we don't want to stop all of it outright. How can taking all internet immunity away from present and future sites help in any way? As we talked about earlier, social media sites can't really do much to help the victims of public shaming, besides paying for a universal basic income, that is. But once the offensive tweet is out there, and someone motivated finds it, there's no going back, no matter what Twitter does. The same thing applies to all the other social media sites. Yes, they are the vessel we use to shame each other, but they are not directly responsible for the real consequences of public shaming. They show us the tweets, and we take it from there. But that doesn't make those motherfuckers innocent. Don't you worry. I've got a whole bunch of bones to pick with the social media companies. I'm forced to defend their stupid asses right now because Monica is a fucking asshole that wants to kill all public debate once and for all. Monica wants Twitter to step in more and somehow moderate all of the content on their sites. It's not just Twitter. They want all social media to moderate more.
Wait, what?
Which is literally the opposite of free speech and of what I want for social media. I hate social media for the moderating that they've already done.
So should you.
And Monica, well, she wants more. Way more. But we will talk about that later. The real solutions to public shaming. If the creators of this documentary really wanted to help the victims of public shaming, the conclusions they would have, or rather should have, come to would have been something entirely different than what they actually came up with. Like, if your goal is to help the victims of public shaming, the way these guys are suggesting we do it is about as roundabout and indirect of a way as you could possibly ever fucking imagine. I declare, here and now, that the creators of this documentary do not, in fact, give a dusty fuck about the lives or survival of these victims. They only care about how they can use these victims to forward their ideas about free speech, Section 230, and suing social media companies. Now, I know that is a bit of a strong statement, but hear me out. If these people really cared about these victims, the conclusion of this documentary would have been totally different than what it actually is. What is the one thing that all of these victims lost? Save one. They all lost their jobs.
They took our jobs! They took our jobs! They took your jobs! They took your jobs too! They took our jobs! They took your jobs! They took your jobs! Took your jobs!
That was the one common denominator. And the black girl who was targeted by the white supremacy groups, she won her court case on the basis that the harassment impeded her ability to use her school to its fullest capacity, i.e., interfering with her ability to earn money by fucking with her education. All of these victims of public shaming lost their jobs or their income or had their ability to earn threatened in some way. That is the cost of public shaming. That is what the focus should have been at the end, as well as how we should mitigate the mental and emotional costs of public shaming. If you really care about these victims and their personal lives, their ability to earn money is the top priority, as people cannot survive if they cannot bring money in. We live in a capitalist society, obviously. So why is it this documentary barely touches that at all? They sure as fuck mention that these people lost their job, but when it comes time to talk about solutions, when it comes to the final act, where they are supposed to talk about how we could lessen the problem and mitigate the effects of public shaming, they don't have jack shit to say about workers' rights, or passing legislation to prevent companies from firing people at the behest of Twitter mob, or firing people without due process because they are more worried about public image than protecting their workers, or employers not giving people a chance to defend themselves. This documentary doesn't say shit about any of that. Go watch it, I promise you. I've watched it a good 7 or 8 times for the sake of this video. They might make little digs here and there, but they don't have anything to say about the companies themselves, the companies that actually fire these victims. And they definitely don't have anything to say about the laws that allow those companies to fire people for no fucking reason. They didn't have shit to say about protecting the victim's right to earn. Instead, they want to talk about how social media companies are responsible for it all. God damn it, I hate defending social media. They want you thinking that it's all the social media companies' fault that these victims have had their lives ruined. That's what this documentary wants you to leave thinking about. And yet, the reason these victims are suffering is mostly because they can't earn a living anymore. Because no one will hire them and they lost the jobs they had. Forget about all that though. It's all the social media companies' fault, guys. You gotta believe Monica. The creators of this documentary still want to be able to sue the social media company, and Section 230 is directly in their way. That's why they bring Section 230 up at all. They want to get rid of it, so they can sue the social media companies, because that's where the money is. And if you didn't already know, Section 230 is part of a law that protects social media companies from being sued for the content posted on their sites. The internet couldn't exist without it. The difference between me and Monica. Part 6. There is a big difference between me and Monica and the others who helped create this documentary, and it requires me to defend my most hated enemy. It pisses me off more than anything that I have to defend social media companies here.
But you know what? It pisses me off.
I hate them more than anyone else on the entire fucking planet. I am the #1 social media hater in the entire world, bar none. And you can take that straight to the bank.
I do. I hate them. They infuriate me.
But I hate them for an entirely different reason than my good personal friend Monica here. I hate social media because they enjoy the protections of a public forum, Section 230, while acting like a publisher. They exert all kinds of control over the site they operate, even though all these sites we use are meant to be open forums. Every forum has rules, but the social media giants are completely inconsistent with their rules, and that is why I hate them. Demonetization, shadow bans, mature ratings, algorithm tags, banned channels, gutted discussion. That is how social media exerts its control. Started with Alex Jones. Yeah, he was an asshole, but once it starts, it doesn't stop. Then, Mumkey, Leafy, Filthy Frank.
Let's be clear. They got rid of him because they didn't like what he was saying. Chris Raygun puts it better than I ever could.
Now, a lot of people are concerned about the slippery slope this potentially sets up, because if Alex Jones gets banned for reasons that they can't even really cite directly, why can't you? And while I do think that leans a little bit on, paranoia, it's not that unreasonable a concern. Now, in my opinion, trying to be as level-headed and rational and not paranoid as possible, the key thing to be concerned about with this whole situation is when you ban an extreme like Alex Jones, you essentially kind of bring the extreme in a little bit. Because when Alex Jones is gone, the new extreme that takes its place will logically be a little bit closer to the center. Not like drastically, not like fucking centrist level, but like maybe just like a little bit, just like a hair closer to the center than, Alex Jones is. And then maybe you have people asking the question, well, why is that person allowed on the platform? And then it gets brought in again, and then again, and then again, and then again.
And the comments being disabled and causing videos to be demonetized. Then there is the Reddit problem, where the site is ruled by a handful of dictator moderators that delete anything even remotely offensive. Twitter will shadow ban your account, and you'll go on posting like nothing ever happened, while no one ever gets to see what you post, unless they go looking for you. Facebook is just a dystopian nightmare hellscape that runs on the blood of dead puppies. I want a free and open marketplace of ideas, where the host company focuses on getting rid of spammers and people spreading viruses, and optimizing the platform for its users.
So should you.
Not where they try to dictate what is or is not allowed on the platform. Monica hates them because they don't censor people enough. She wants social media companies to come in and delete all of the troll posts. She wants Twitter and Facebook and all the rest to always be watching for situations where people are being ganged up on by the mob, and actively arbitrate and moderate each and every one, which is so fucking scary of an idea. Seriously, I don't even want to imagine a world where the host company of a site like YouTube or Twitter actively goes around making decisions on who people can or can't criticize, because the host company would be liable for all of them. That would mean they have to pick and choose which ideas to support and which to get rid of. That is the opposite of free speech, by definition. And you can bet that they wouldn't do that either. They would just make it impossible for people to criticize each other, or anything. I'm pretty sure Monica is one of those people that thinks free speech is all about protecting bigotry and hate. And she probably thinks that free speech is just an idea that we could never actually have. So she is willing to give up free speech, because she thinks it will be safer that way. And god damn it, I hate that mentality. It's fucking dangerous. Free speech is everything. What would happen if social media was liable? Part 7. If you go to YouTube and tell them, hey, you are legally responsible, legally liable for everything posted on your site. Dude, we would be talking about an adpocalypse on an entirely different Richter scale than anything that has come before it. And it would not be restricted to just YouTube. It would be every site out there, every social media site out there, and any news sites that might be created in the future. The adpocalypse we've seen so far on YouTube would be nothing compared to what would happen if Monica got her way and people could sue YouTube over the content posted on their site, or any other social media site. Twitter would probably block people from using pejorative words when tagging others, and they would shadow ban stuff or just make a policy where people can't insult each other at all. And what's the point of Twitter if people can't insult each other? When I go to Twitter, like I said earlier, or really any other social media site, I am looking for things I disagree with. That's the fucking goal. Anyone who looks for things to confirm how they already feel is an idiot that doesn't challenge their own beliefs and should be criticized for it. If Monica gets her way, there will be nothing on social media that is interesting. Just a big orgy of licking each other's assholes and complimenting each other. I can't think of anything more boring. Social media is only fun and rewarding when people are saying crazy shit. Making the platforms responsible for it all would entirely defeat the purpose and make it impossible. Entire channels would be wiped out. Only the favorites would survive, because they would no longer be a public forum. They would be a publisher. They would only allow things they are willing to support in court. And that list is pretty fucking slim. All social media follows the same rules. Part 8. All social media companies follow the same rules, because they are different variations of the same thing. A public place to share thoughts and ideas. And they all depend on Section 230 to exist. Publishers operate under different rules for a fucking reason. They are held liable because they have complete editorial control over everything they create. They control the narrative, so they have to pay for it when they post something damaging or slanderous. Social media companies are supposed to be the vessel we all use to communicate with each other. The people who own social media companies are not supposed to tamper with the content that is posted on their site, and that lack of control is what absolves them of legal responsibility. The price they have to pay for legal immunity is that they don't get to control the narrative on their site, or rather, they shouldn't be able to control the narrative. And if we take that legal immunity away, suddenly, all of the sites that were meant to act as a public forum would be publishers responsible for everything that is posted on their site.
Well, now you see, that's bad. That's really, really bad.
Part 9. The actual problem with social media. The real problem is that the social media companies get to enjoy their legal immunity while they exert all kinds of control over the content posted on their site. I believe that decision should be solely in the hands of the people. Community moderators, fair system for appeals, neutral resolutions board, open like to dislike ratio for everything, including comments, fair, non-restrictive policy. The list could go on. Social media companies get to double dip. They get to have their cake and eat it too. They are acting like a publisher while getting the protection of a public forum. To Monica, social media companies aren't being enough of a publisher.
Wait, what?
A lot of the public shaming that happens is justifiable, and the documentary acknowledges that. So it's clear they don't want to stop all public shaming. But if you make social media companies responsible for every public shaming, they will always err on the side of caution and probably make it impossible for people to criticize others, because it would just be too risky for them. I get that Monica wants to be able to sue the social media company, because they have all the money. But we have to be very careful about how we sue them. What we sue them for determines how they will act in the future. Monica's strategy is a damn risky one. If we sue them because they didn't censor people enough, there's going to be far-reaching negative consequences for pretty much everyone except the most goody-two-shoes, family-friendly creators. Pushing the boundaries of acceptable thought will be harder than ever before. It will kill the public debate and cause far more violence as a result of repressed anger, as well as making it harder for the public to spread ideas that our overlords don't want us to spread. And those are the ideas we need to focus on. I don't know about you, but I like pissing the overlords off. I like talking about things rejected by society and thinking for myself, as much as I can anyway. And anything they don't want us talking about is something we should be interested in. Part 10, wrapping things up. So let's start wrapping this up, yeah? I've got videos to work on and I'm fucking terrible at it, so I need to get back to it. I've set up Monica as a straw man because it's easier for me to write when I have a straw man to refer to. I don't think she is as responsible for the message of this documentary as the people who paid for it. But her name is on it, so she gets the honor of being this video's straw man. If I ever get famous, I'm going to make an actual straw man award and send it to people that I talk shit about. And all the awards will be shaped in the shape of a turd designed by community artists. Thus I pledge. Seriously though, let's wrap this up. The guy who got fired for the white power symbol should get his fucking job back. No doubt about it. SDGE is a bunch of cunts for firing him. And Monica is a for not directly calling them out in this documentary. That guy didn't do anything wrong. The Amazon crybaby should be able to sell on Amazon. He didn't really gouge anyone. He was trying to make an extra buck in a society that requires you to pull in as much money as you can, as sources of money are limited, and opportunity is limited, and capitalism sucks. So, I mean, can you really blame the guy? There have been far, far worse cases of price gouging, and that dude is about as small fry as you can possibly get in that type of crime. And Amazon price gouged far more than this guy ever did, and to a whole hell of a lot more people for an extended period of time during the pandemic, with much steeper price hikes. Exactly what everyone accused that guy of doing, only a whole hell of a lot worse. And Amazon wants to act all high and mighty, and everyone else acts like this guy's the devil. It's a joke. But that dude still looked ridiculous in this documentary, though. The crying was too much. The Facebook mom who made the post about Trump, or whatever she said, didn't really do much of shit wrong, and certainly didn't deserve to get fired, no doubt. She had an opinion and expressed it in a place where she thought she was safe to do so. I mean, that is her mistake naturally, but that doesn't mean she did anything wrong. Not that I agree or disagree with her. People are entitled to their opinions, and they're entitled to speak those opinions wherever they want. That's the whole idea of self-expression. What the fuck are we even talking about? Why did she lose her job? This is stupid. The girl who got targeted by a white supremacist site got her restitution, and her life seems to be going well. So like I said earlier, most of this documentary is fine. A lot of the points they make up until towards the end are pretty much fine. I could nitpick, but I won't because this video is already far too long. The real issue I have with this documentary is the direction they are trying to send people. They are trying to gather support for a cause that will actually hurt our ability to communicate and share ideas. If Monica and the people who paid for this documentary get their way, social media would not be social media. It would be a selected few people generating content that is approved by the overlords. And goddamn it, if they approve of it, I don't want anything to do with it. Anything outside of the Overton window, or parameters of acceptable thought, would be strictly off limits, because social media companies will do anything to avoid getting sued, especially on a large scale. And you can bet your ass they're not going to let us talk about anything spicy if they're going to be legally responsible for it. This documentary should have been talking about workers' rights, the right to have a controversial opinion and keep your livelihood, not the victim's right to sue the social media companies when they get ganged up on. That's endorsing the problem while trying to get paid. They don't talk about any actual, tangible solutions for the victims of public shaming. Nothing that will help the individuals themselves. Just bullshit, agenda nonsense. Public shaming is a necessary byproduct of free speech, and it serves a valuable purpose. The documentary itself says that it's important and not always bad. They agree with me here, or I agree with them, whatever. We need public shaming to hold people who do wrong to account. So the best hope we have is to mitigate the effects of public shaming, so reducing the price people pay for it should have been the point of this documentary the entire time. Instead, they want to try and push everyone into repealing Section 230, so everyone can sue social media. I guarantee you that would be the end of social media, and there would be no chance of a new site, because we are talking about laws here, not company policy. It would affect the existing rich megagiants who are your real target, and the tiny startups that are trying to do better than fucking YouTube and the rest. Which is why I say it's so important how we sue the social media companies. What you sue them for determines how they will act. This documentary is asking for trouble in a big way. I just hope this giant turd will pass by without infecting the world with its terrible ideas. Yes, I know, I'm bringing attention to it by talking about it, but I need content, and what do you want from me? Final statement, part 11. I know it sucks that the social media companies are always trying to rile us up, but the fact of the matter is this. The world is in very, very bad shape, and we have a lot of good reason to be pissed off and riled up. We should not be trying to discourage the social media companies from showing us what's out there. We don't need them filtering the information that comes in from the world. We need to see it firsthand and talk about it. We need to be debating and arguing about everything all the time, always and forever and ever until the end of time. That is the only way we're going to figure this shit out. The more heated the debate is, the more people feel like they will be able to express themselves without fear of repercussion, because everybody's doing it, which means less people will resort to violence. And the further we get towards our eventual goal of a futuristic utopia where no one needs to work. We should be all kinds of riled up over a whole manner of issues. I'm not suggesting violence. Let me make that clear. But heated debate is what we need, and we don't need the people who keep the forum running to keep sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. We have two options. Either we talk or we fight. Those are the only two possibilities in human communication. And 10 times out of 10, we are better served talking than we are fighting. Anything that gets in the way of us talking is objectively bad, counterproductive, and downright harmful to the advancement of the human race. Debate and argument is a good thing. In fact, debate and argument will end up being our salvation in the end. Nothing else can save us from ourselves. Only discussion and debate can do that, except for war, that is. So let's not gut the public debate by turning social media companies into giant nannies that moderate everything we say, because they'll be sued if they don't. Fuck's sake, guys. But that's it. I need to go shower after that sweaty ass slapping. Monica, make better arguments, and I'll see your milf ass when I'm rich and famous. Bye-bye, baby.